What's up, everybody? This is Dom from Lightshare. Welcome to today's episode. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different on this channel, and I thought we haven't really done any sort of painting videos of that nature, so we figured we might as well deep dive with how each one of us approaches our techniques. We're just going to call this segment Lightshare Labs for now because we don't have an official name for it, and if you guys have any questions about my process or Adrian's process or Andre's process, just leave them down in the comment section below. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump into it.
So how do you come up with choosing these type of references?
So usually I will go on Pinterest and have like a ref board of different watercolor artists, and then select which one that has like the nicest lighting setup, and then I'll kind of choose also the one that has like nicer shapes too. This one has like that spire in the back, so I thought that might be a good focal point to use for the painting itself. And
yeah, makes like a cool composition element, you know.
It gives prominence to the shapes too. So from that thumbnail read in the study, you can clearly see it's a cityscape scene.
Yeah, it's like a central composition in a way, but at the same time, like the perspective is dragging you towards like the left side, which, right. By the way, I see you're using like what's that, like a grid?
Yeah, so that's the perspective grid. What I use is like a polygon tool that I turn into like a star shape, and then you can drag it to make those lines come out from that singular point. So you can use this for either 1-point or 2-point perspective. You just have to go up to that setting up on top when you click the polygon tool, and you select star indentation to 99, and it should make that perspective shape. Or you could draw the perspective manually, where you plot a point on the horizon line and then draw lines out from that point itself.
That's pretty cool, dude. I mean, it's nice that you don't have to leave Photoshop to do that. I would do it like in a very, very clunky way, like just drawing some lines and then distorting everything and copying it. And yeah, I tried this technique as well, like a bunch of times, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe over time.
How does that work in your case? Like,
I think I think it's more organic. Like, it's definitely not as direct, as straightforward as in your case. You're just basically nailing it first attempt here. But
thanks, bro. Nah.
But yeah, I feel like wait, I'm just mesmerized, okay, at the way you come up with like those shapes and stuff, like the way you approach values and stuff. So I'm trying to think of like some interesting questions that our audience might also benefit from. Like, for instance, the way you approach values, you know, like you're just basically going for like a basic gray right there, like a that thing you just did like a shadow thing. Is that like a multiply mode or something, or just simply darker
so
color?
sometimes I'll use a multiply mode, or like just the normal mode. I'll select darker value. There's also another setting called color burn, which you can emulate it's like in photographs, you know, when you take a picture of a Polaroid and the sun hits that Polaroid with high intensity and it makes those sunspots. That's kind of like what that tool does. So it really darkens that specific area.
I see.
But in order to make these blending modes effective, you have to make sure that your layer is collapsed. You don't want to you don't want to have like a singular layer. Just to put that effect on, you have to make sure the layer is solid first before you do it.
It's pretty cool how you come up with like ways to define those shapes that identify, for instance, objects like cars or like trees or like, you know, stuff like that in such an abstract way at first, but it slowly forms through the process in a way. Like maybe it has something to do with your brushes or something. Like the way you approach vegetation and stuff seems to be like very splashy and very like rough type of brush strokes, which is cool because that's not the focal point. The focal point is that tower there and perhaps that house that has like a more darker tone, but it's like those type of details, you know, that most people fall into way too early. Like, I must define all the leaves on this tree, and you just do like this, like a basic brush stroke, and that's it.
Yeah, it's good to keep in mind like the big, medium, and small shapes. I think what a lot of people do is they go big, medium, and small, but they kind of avoid the tinier details. So in this case, the tinier details are the little twigs on the trees. And I feel like those little tiny details can help bring a whole painting together. Because if you just have like the big shapes, then I don't know how to describe it. It feels less crunchy.
I see. Yeah.
I don't know how to... Yeah. Because with those small details, you have something else to look at that's not just the focal point itself, but like, oh, there's like that little branch right there, or there's like those people in the street.
Yeah. What about layers? Number of layers.
Again, layers I
do you use
try
a lot
to
of
keep down to a minimum. So far, most of my paintings have been under 30 layers max.
Okay.
So
do you really keep a count like that?
It just ends up being around 30 layers like per painting. Like 25 to 30 layers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I chose it, it just happened to be that much at the end.
Cool.
I think it's mostly because I spend a lot of time on the first 2 layers, and then I start, adding more layers that might be overlapping on the underneath layer. So stuff like people in the foreground, or maybe there's like a tree in the foreground, or other elements that are closer to the camera. That's when like the layers start stacking.
Yeah, I'm saying that because you seem to be pretty fearless with the way you just paint on top of stuff here. Because most people will create like another layer just for highlights or for shadows or color or stuff like that. You just seem to go all in,
bro.
On this.
Yeah, I used to use a lot of the blending modes, like the adjustment layers and the mask. I stopped using masks for a while because it just got really messy with all the different layer adjustments. But yeah, I think the different tools are helpful. It's just finding a way to streamline it so you don't get so frustrated with layers.
Yeah, I see you're using...
That's the best spot to be in.
I see you're using the lasso tool and all that kind of stuff, right, to select certain areas. That definitely helps, I mean, especially when working on a single layer, per se. You're basically working on one layer here.
Oh, yeah. The lasso tool helps to really carve out the elements in your scene. You could do it the other way, where you take a really hard round brush and just carve away at the shapes. But I think the lasso tool gets a little bit more pixel density within your edges.
Yeah, it's
so
like sharper,
really crisp and
right.
Yeah. So
especially
when you zoom in, it's like crisp.
Yeah, especially if you choose if you take the wand, the magic wand tool. There's like it's like a tolerance slider, so you can adjust how much range of values can it select.
Right. I think you can also feather the edges of the lasso tool. I'm not sure if that's possible.
Yeah. There's so many options for like the selection tools in Photoshop. It's like you can do so many things with those, but unfortunately I don't mess up too much with them, so I don't know much about it. But
what type of tools do you use mostly?
I tend to paint pretty much a lot, you know. It's nice. I don't think my process is as optimized as yours in this case. I think I spend a lot of time. I waste a lot of time.
I'm pretty scattered, so
I feel like that too, man. I feel like I'm going back and forth, you know, shadow here, highlight there, and then I'm coming back. And
yeah,
to be honest, it seems like you're doing pretty much the same thing here, but you can tell you started from a very neutral position, you know, with all that gray background, gray shapes, and then you started to add on top of them. And now you're just adding the lighting and all that stuff, which, by the way, it's insane how you you came up with this way of like making it look so simple, you know, like you're stylizing lighting and all that stuff, and I don't know, I just don't have words right now.
Yeah, like getting your paintings to a point where you're implying design is probably the most fun to work with, I feel. Obviously, you know, in a more job setting, you need to describe a lot of the forms and detail it out for the 3D modeler, right? But for paintings like these, you can kind of just loosen up and be more expressive and kind of instill your own stylistic choices within the painting. So yeah, as for style, you know, it kind of depends also on like what brushes you use. In this case, I'm using like a lot of texture brushes, a lot of splatter brushes, some smooth brushes to kind of block out those shapes at first, and then I'll use the mixer brush to sort of push and pull certain edges.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that seems to be like a wonderful combination of like different types of textures and soft brushes and hard edge type of brushes, and yeah, even those that you're using to define but at the same time undefine vegetation and elements that are distant, you know, far away in the distance, far back, because they're meant to be like a touch, you know, like a suggestion, like an indication of something, like without defining every single leaf of every single leaf of that tree, or you know what I mean. So
yeah,
it's nice that you can decide like which elements to focus on and which ones not to, without resorting to stuff like blurring out things with like focal range, what's it called, dude? This thing with cameras, you know, the focal the field
length,
focal length, yeah, or something like that, you know, like where you blur things in the distance and you focus on what's here now. But that's a camera trick. How do you do that in painting, you know, without any filter or anything like that? You have to choose which things to let like more loose and more undefined edges on. So edge control, I think that sums up what I'm trying to talk about.
Yeah, edge control is super important, especially if you're making a painting like this where it feels more painterly. It's always good to have a variation of hard and soft edges. So what I like to do is have a majority of my focal points mostly hard edges, and then I'll do like a technique where you take turns with the edges. So if we were to go from left to right, maybe I'll have like one edge hard, another edge soft, another edge hard, another edge soft. So it's like back and forth, and then it creates like this rhythm of the hard and soft edges throughout the piece.
That's awesome. So the softer edge happens to be on the more shadow type of area, the darker side of the object, because it's more like lost, merging with the background and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with like the lighter areas, you can see with like the car.
Yeah.
How it's more of a harsh edge.
Yeah.
And then stuff like the ground,
sharper
background
details.
Shadow right here.
Yeah.
It's sharper. But yeah, painting in this style is super fun. I definitely recommend people to try this out, follow along if you like, or find a new study and try to apply these techniques to your own paintings.
So you're not gonna color this up, right?
No, not for this one. This is just to show.
But was the reference in color before, and you turn it into black and white, or that's cool. I mean, this way you can clearly see the values much better, much clearer.
Yeah, and again, it helps you to develop faster painting mileage. Working in black and white super quick, so you don't have to worry about the different tonal ranges of colors. It's purely just light and shadow that you're dealing with, so you can bang out these paintings super quick, just focusing on the indication, the big massive details or the big shapes, and finish your study in a couple minutes. Well, half an hour. So
it's so cool, dude. It's so cool that you could do this, man. Holy shit, this is goals for so many people, so many of us. It's awesome. How long does something like this take?
So this one took half an hour.
Crazy.
And a regular piece with color might take 4 to 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent a bit more time on the color ones, but these ones are just fast since it's just a study. And if I were to change up the study and add my own elements, I could also do that by changing the lighting or maybe changing the architecture or the story elements to make it more of like a original take on the scene or something like that.
Yeah. So they sure make like a great daily exercise.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're coming to the conclusion of this piece. If you guys have any other questions about our process, feel free to leave them down in the comments section below. And
any suggestions? What should we do next? Which kind of artwork should we react to? All that stuff. Let us know.
Cool. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you guys.